You finally got your hands on a legendary 5D's decks, huh? Well, you've come to the right place.
Aye. Subscribe.
The legendary 5D's decks is one of the greatest products we've had in recent times. It's packed to the brim with good staples that will sort any duelist out for the years to come, including the Molcharmies. And of course you get 3 different decks to mess around with as well. In this video I'm going to show you how to build and play with those decks out of the box. Some of them you can get away with just using 1 box, but it's probably worth getting 3 boxes if you can. So without further ado, let's rev it up. Alright, so as you can see here, we have built 3 complete and as competitive as possible different decks from only 3 of the boxes here. Of course, you only get 1 of each Molcharmy in each box, so if you want to play each deck as competitively as possible, you'll have to swap around your Fuwalos and your Perulias and things like that. Regardless, you can have a little head-to-head or tournament using the boxes, and I think that's really fun. So we're going to be going through all 3 of these decks. I'm going to give you a full deck list for each one, talk you through some of the key cards that you need to know, and so that you can understand how to play the deck and what you're building towards, and then I'll show you some of the combos as well. So let's kick things off with the Yusei deck. So let's start here with a base list that you can copy to get things started, and honestly I don't know even what you would call this deck, like junk? Stardust, Synchron, it's like all of the above, right? So yeah, we are just going to run through the list first, and then I'll speak about some of the cards in more detail afterwards. Starting things off in the main deck, we have 3 copies of Full Speed Warrior. This is one of the new cards for Yusei out of the legendary 5D's decks. It is a 1-card combo, but you do only get 1 copy per box. So for this deck specifically, you need 3 of the boxes. Next up, we have 3 copies of Synchro Fellowship, the new spell card. This is generally what you would search off of Full Speed Warrior and is a 1-card combo by itself as well. We have 3 copies of Junk Converter, which enables the best combo in the deck. This card is really good, but it does require you to have another tuner in hand. 3 copies of Tuning. This is a non-once per turn, search a Synchron tuner and then send the top card from your deck to the graveyard. So it's very flexible, can search for any Synchron you need in any situation. It is a 1-card combo by itself. That's why we're playing 3, and I have chosen to play this artwork because this is the one I prefer. We have 2 copies of Stardust Synchron. This is a 1-card combo as well because it can search for the Synchro Fellowship. It's not as strong as a 1-card combo, that's why we're only playing 2, and we also need one of these in the deck to summon off of our Junk Speeder. We have a couple of non-tuners here. We're playing 2 copies of the Anchorbolt Hedgehog. This can combo with the tuning, and it's also just a decent non-tuner extender. You kind of want to see a non-tuner in your hand, but you don't want to play too many because they don't really do anything by themselves. So we have 2 copies of the Anchorbolt Hedgehog and 1 copy of the Crossroads Sonic Chick. Ideally, you want access to this for pretty much most of your combos. Otherwise, your board will kind of just suck, but you know, that's going to be a common theme with most of these plays. And then engine requirements, we have 2 copies of Junk Synchron. You could play 3 if you want. Like I said, this is just a base list. Feel free to experiment once you learn the cards. We don't want 1 because to resolve the Synchro Fellowship, we have to search for a Junk Synchron, but on its own, it doesn't do anything. So that's why I've opted to play 2. We have 1 copy of Scrap Synchron, which is part of your combo with the Full Speed Warrior. Then we have an Assault Synchron, a Revolution Synchron, a Jet Synchron, and a Wheel Synchron here as well. These are your one-off targets that you can summon off of your Junk Speeder. We have 1 copy of Synchro Rumble to search off of our Crimson Dragon, and then pretty much hand traps for the rest. We do want to play lots of tuner hand traps so that we can combine it with our Junk Converter. That's why we're playing Triple Ash and Triple Veiler here, and then 3 Fuwalos because it's one of the best cards in the deck, 3 Droll and Lockbirds, 1 copy of Imperm to go alongside our Crossout Designator, and a Called by the Grave. This deck is all about the Junk Speeder in the extra deck. If that gets negated, you're pretty much stopped in your tracks, so that's why Crossout Designator is really important if you want to stop like an Effect Veiler on your Junk Speeder. That's what the Crossout is for. But yeah, that brings us to a total of 40 cards in the main deck here. Also, the whole 15 hand traps kind of thing is definitely going to be a common theme as we go through all 3 of these decks. Alright, for the extra deck, we have a Formula Synchron, 1 copy of Scrap Warrior. This is a new ultra rare synchro that becomes part of your 1-card combo with the new cards. 2 copies of Junk Speeder, because if your first one gets negated and you're able to survive until turn 3, you're going to want to make another one because it's basically the only thing you can do to actually build a board. We have 1 copy of Garden Rose Maiden. We're actually stealing some cards from the Akiza deck to help strengthen our combos here. We have a Black Rose Moonlight Dragon, Junk Warrior Extreme, which is able to summon your Formula Synchron back from the graveyard. 1 copy of Axel Synchro Stardust Dragon, 2 copies copies of Stardust Dragon. I am playing the chibi artworks. I do prefer the original art, but this one's secret rare, so we like shiny cards. 2 copies of Stardust Warrior, which is essentially your main interruption in the deck. This is really what you want to build towards because it's your only means of really stopping your opponent. Then, of course, we have our Crimson Dragon, and our targets for the Crimson Dragon, we have a Ruddy Rose Dragon and a Shooting Star Dragon as well. So that's the list. Once you've popped it together, let's talk about some of the cards. Okay, so when building your deck, you kind of want to have a rough idea of what you're building your deck towards. And so to figure that out, we want to read all the cards that are available in our deck, figure out which of those cards actually disrupt our opponent if we're able to summon them to the field, and then that's going to be our game plan. Now, in this deck specifically, that's all going to be done with your Junk Speeder. With your 5-card hand, you're going to want to play through your opponent's interruptions to get to your level 5 Synchro here, which can be done in many different ways, and then activate the effect of Junk Speeder, which will summon as many Synchron tuners from the deck as possible. And if that resolves, you're essentially going to be allowed to set up somewhat of a board. If it doesn't resolve, if it gets stopped by your opponent, then you're not really going to have much. And that is just how it goes with the Synchron deck with the tools we have available in this box. Now, like I said, Stardust Warrior is your main source of disruption. This card says if your opponent would special summon a monster, quick effect, you contribute this card, negate the summon, and if you do, destroy that monster. That's also not a once per turn, so you're going to want to summon as many of these as possible. However, if we look at the Synchro materials, it does require 1 tuner Synchro monster. Now, the only tuner Synchro monster we have is the Formula Synchron, which of course it's a level 2. So we're going to have to use a level 1 tuner and a level 1 non-tuner to make this card. That's why the Sonic Chick is so important. If we don't get access to the Sonic Chick, we don't get access to the Formula Synchron, and therefore we do not get access to the Stardust Warrior, and our board sucks. Obviously, I'm going to show you combos that are going to go through all of these, but that is essentially the line of play you want to be building towards, getting access to your Formula Synchron, and then being able to continue playing from there into your Stardust Warriors. Black Rose Moonlight Dragon can bounce an opponent's special summoned monster to their hand. However, it is a mandatory effect, and will trigger if a level 5 or higher monster is special summoned to our opponent's field. So because it's mandatory, they can play in a way that it forces it out without you being able to control when you activate it. But sometimes that can just be annoying for the opponent anyway, and so it is disruption nonetheless. Ruddy Rose Dragon and Shooting Star Dragon aren't really that disruptive for the opponent. They are going to be summoned off of our Crimson Dragon. Ruddy Rose basically banishes both of the graveyards, which can actually be quite annoying for us if, you know, we're tributing our Stardust Warrior for its effect. We don't really want to banish it from the graveyard because then it won't be able to return. But it is worth noting that we have that as an option because it might come up in gameplay. Shooting Star Dragon is really there just to protect your board. Basically, Stardust Warrior is the main guy you want to summon. The rest is a lot more situational, but you know, they're all big bodies, they're all nice to have. And summoning a whole bunch of Synchro monsters is very fun. Alright, let's talk through some of the combos here. Getting to the Junk Speeder is pretty simple, however, everything after can get a little bit complicated. So, this first combo is going to be the 1-card combo with the new Full Speed Warrior. We are going to normal summon Full Speed Warrior and activate its effect, adding a spell or trap that mentions Junk Synchron, so we'll add the Synchro Fellowship. We'll activate Synchro Fellowship, adding both the Junk Synchron and the new Scrap Synchron to hand as well, and discard a random card from hand. We can then Synchro our Scrap Synchron in hand with our Full Speed Warrior on field into the Scrap Warrior, and Scrap Warrior's effect on summon will send to graveyard the Crossroad Sonic Chick. From here, we'll activate the graveyard effect of Synchro Fellowship, so it'll banish itself from graveyard, target a Synchro monster we control, reduce its level by 1, and we gain an additional normal summon for Junk Synchron. So we will normal summon our Junk Synchron here, and we're actually not going to use its effect because we want the space for Junk Speeder. Since Scrap Warrior is now level 2, we can Synchro Shokan into the Junk Speeder, and here we will chain block the Junk Speeder because we'll go Chainlink 1, and because a tuner was sent to graveyard, we can go Chainlink 2 Sonic Chick Engraved to special summon itself. Resolving the Junk Speeder will summon out a Stardust Synchron, a Jet Synchron, a Wheel Synchron, and an Assault Synchron as well. Stardust Synchron will activate on summon, grabbing another copy of the Synchro Fellowship for follow-up. From here, we're going to Synchro summon the Assault Synchron with the Junk Speeder into the Black Rose Moonlight Dragon. Mandatory effect on summons, not going to do anything. And then we'll Synchro the Jet Synchron with the Moonlight Dragon into the Axel Synchro Stardust Dragon. Chainlink 1 will revive a level 2 or lower tuner. Chainlink to Jet Synchron will add another copy of Junk Synchron to hand. And we will special back the Jet Synchron with the Accel. Synchro the Jet Synchron with the Sonic Chick into the Formula Synchron. Formula effect on summon is going to draw us a card. And then we'll activate the effect of Accel to tribute itself, summon out a Stardust Dragon from the extra deck, and immediately synchro summon with the Formula Synchron into our first copy of the Stardust Warrior here. This will trigger our Assault Synchron in Graveyard to summon back the Accel Synchro because it was tributed. We'll then synchro the Accel with the Stardust Synchron into the Crimson Dragon. Effect on summon, we'll grab a Synchro Rumble, and then we can activate Crimson Dragon, target the Stardust Warrior to tag itself out into the Shooting Star Dragon. We'll now activate the Synchro Rumble, summoning back the Black Rose Moonlight to the field in defense position. That gives us that interruption for the opponent's turn. Activate the effect of Wheel Synchron to normal summon a level 4 Allure from hand, allowing us to normal summon the Junk Synchron. We will not activate its effect, we don't really need to, but we will then synchro the Wheel and the Junk Synchron into the Junk Warrior Extreme. Effect on summon, we'll summon as many level 2 or lower monsters from Graveyard as possible. We have to summon 2 here because we do have 2 zones, so we'll summon back the Formula Synchron. The other body honestly doesn't matter, we'll just summon back a Jet Synchron, I guess. Now we have 1 special summon left for the rest of the turn, so we will synchro the Formula Synchron with the Junk Warrior Extreme into our second copy of Stardust Warrior. And that is combo number 1 with the Junk Speeder being chain blocked from something like Ash. Alright, the next combo is slightly better. It's going to be Junk Converter plus any tuner in hand. This also will chain block your Junk Speeder, so it's protected against something like Ash. We are going to start with the Junk Converter, pitching itself and a tuner to the graveyard to search for the Junk Synchron. Normal summon Junk Synchron, effect to reborn the Junk Converter, and then synchro these two into the Junk Speeder. Chainlink 1 Junk Speeder, Chainlink 2 Junk Converter, will summon back the Junk Synchron from the graveyard. Resolving Speeder, we'll summon out an Assault Synchron, a Stardust Synchron, a Wheel Synchron, and of course a Jet Synchron. Stardust Synchron effect on summon will add the Synchro Fellowship, and then we'll just fire it off straight away, adding the Junk Synchron and the Sonic Chick, discarding the Sonic Chick to the graveyard. We're then going to synchro our Assault Synchron with the Junk Speeder into the Black Rose Moonlight Dragon, and the Jet Synchron alongside the Black Rose Moonlight Dragon into the Accel Synchro. Chainlink 1 to Reborn, Chainlink 2 to search a junk monster, and Chainlink 3 to reborn itself as well. Off the Jet Synchron, we'll add another copy of Junk Converter for follow-up, and then we'll synchro the Jet with the Crossroads Sonic Chick into our copy of the Formula Synchron, effect on summon to draw a card, and then effect of Accel tributing itself to summon out the Stardust Dragon and immediately synchro with the Formula into our first copy of Stardust Warrior, triggering the Assault Synchron in Graveyard to banish itself and reborn the Accel. Synchro the Accel with the Stardust Synchron into the Crimson Dragon, effect on summon, we'll grab the Synchro Rumble, and then we'll go effect target the Stardust Warrior to tag out into the Shooting Star Dragon. Using the effect of Wheel Synchron, we are going to use our additional normal on Junk Synchron, and we will activate its effect this time, summoning back the Junk Converter from the graveyard, and then we'll synchro these two into the Garden Rose Maiden. We'll then tribute the Garden Rose Maiden to summon the Stardust Synchron from graveyards, and activate Synchro Rumble, summoning back one of our level 8 Dragon Synchros as well, to then synchro once again into the Crimson Dragon to use on our opponent's turn as well. We'll use the graveyard effect of Garden Rose Maiden to reborn a Dragon Synchro from our graveyard. That's going to be the Black Rose Moonlight Dragon. And then finally, we'll synchro our wheel with our other Junk Synchron on field into the Junk Warrior Extreme. And that will, of course, reborn the Formula Synchron once again to then synchro one last time into our second copy of the Stardust Warrior, and that's combo number 2. Now obviously it's not always going to be as clean as the previous 2 combos. Sometimes you'll need to use, 2 or 3 different weird cards in hand to actually get to the Junk Speeder, and that might lock you out of a bigger board. For example, maybe you have to go through the Crossroads Sonic Chick to make your Junk Speeder, and then you don't have access to the level 1 non-tuner, and you can't make the Formula Synchron. Well, I'm going to show you what you can do with just the Junk Speeder without using any of the extra effects that may have been used leading up to this point. So we get to the Junk Speeder. With its effect, we have to summon out 5 Synchrons from the deck. Those are going to be the Assault Synchron, the Jet Synchron, the Stardust Synchron, the Revolution Synchron, and of course the Wheel Synchron as well. We're not going to activate the Stardust Synchron effect on summon because let's assume we've already used it. We are going to start here by synchroing the Wheel with the Assault Synchron into the Black Rose Moonlight Dragon. We'll then synchro the Jet Synchron with the Black Rose Moonlight into our Axel here. Chainlink 1 Axel, Chainlink 2 Jet Synchron. That'll grab us a Junk Synchron for follow-up, and of course we will reborn the Jet Synchron here. What we're going to do now is activate the Graveyard effect of Wheel Synchron, banishing itself to reduce our Junk Speeder's level by 4. That's going to give us a level 1 non-tuner that we can then synchro with the Jet Synchron into our copy of Formula Synchron here. Effect on summon to draw cards. Wow, how lucky. Now we'll activate the effect of Axel to tribute itself. That will summon out the Stardust and immediately synchro with the Formula Synchron into our Stardust Warrior, of course triggering our Assault Synchron and Graveyard to summon back the Axel. Axel with the Stardust into our Crimson Dragon, effect on summon, grabbing our Synchro Rumble to hand, and then effect target the Stardust Warrior. You could actually save this for the opponent's turn in case you want to go into a Ruddy Rose Dragon, but here we'll just go into the Shooting Star Dragon. Synchro Rumble can summon back our Black Rose Moonlight Dragon, and then Revolution Synchron is honestly just chilling there. We don't actually need it, but we had to summon 5 Synchrons from the deck with the Junk Speeder. This way we do still get to our interruptions of the Stardust Warrior and the Moonlight Dragon, and we didn't have to use the Sonic Check or the Synchro Fellowship or anything like that. So pretty cool if you can get to and resolve your Junk Speeder. If not, you're kind of fucked. But yeah, that's about it for the Yusei deck. Let's move on. Now we get into our Rose Dragon deck, or the Akiza deck, and this is by far the simplest out of all 3 decks, purely because this deck has no combos. For that reason, I think you really want to go second to get the most value out of your Black Rose Dragon. Also, Black Rose Moonlight Dragon is just better going second as well. It's really difficult to do anything with this deck going first without the support in Doom of Dimensions. I have incorporated a very small Junk Speeder combo that I'll show you, just to actually give the deck a combo, but we'll go through all of that after we run through the list real quick. So in the main deck, we have 3 copies of Rox Rose Dragon, 3 copies of Red Rose Dragon, 3 copies of White Rose Dragon, and 0 copies of Blue Rose Dragon. You could maybe play 1 because it is another non-tuner. We're on 3 copies of Rose Princess, which can search our White Rose Cloister. We're playing 3 of that as well. This basically gives you a free special summon for the start of your turn. We're playing 2 copies of Basil Rose Shoot, 1 Black Garden, and 1 Blooming of the Darkest Rose, as well as a Synchro Rumble for our engine requirements. Now, for my added spice, I have thrown in 3 copies of Junk Converter. You just seen how good of a card this was in the previous deck. I thought it was very much needed to give this deck a going first play as well. So alongside that, we have 1 copy of Junk Synchron, 1 copy of Assault Synchron, and 1 copy of Wheel Synchron. The rest of the deck is, of course, hand traps. We got Triple Ash and Triple Veiler, same concept, tuner hand traps for Junk Converter. 3 copies of Perulia this time, 3 Droll, and then 2 Infinite Impermanence, giving us a 40 card list. Yeah, it's really not that good. There's not many disruptive cards going first, and then there's even less ways to get those disruptive cards on the board. Moving on to the extra deck, we have our 1 copy of Junk Speeder, 1 Garden Rose Maiden, 1 Garden Rose Flora, a Splendid Rose as a level 6 Synchro Monster, double Black Rose Dragon, you could maybe get away with playing 3, Black Rose Moonlight Dragon, the Perialis, Empress of Blossoms, an ultra rare, very nice, 1 copy of Axel alongside the Chibi Stardust, 2 Ruddy Rose because it's much better in this deck. Instead of hitting the graveyard, it also nukes the field if you use Black Rose Dragon. And then we have 1 copy of Crimson Dragon and 2 copies of Crossrose Dragon here as well. Now, if we look at our extra deck here, what cards are you using to disrupt your opponent? Literally, your only good option is Black Rose Dragon, which can be summoned on your opponent's turn with the Crossrose Dragon. This is very hard to set up in the deck, and your opponent can just attack over it. It's got 800 attack points, so this essentially does nothing. And then setting up a Garden Rose Flora to synchro into the Black Rose on your opponent's turn is even more difficult. So yeah, definitely go second with this deck. Try and weaken your opponent's board with your hand traps, and then just nuke them with the Black Rose Dragon and continue playing from there. A funny thing you can do with this deck is give your opponent 5 tokens with Black Garden, and then they just can't summon monsters. That is actually part of the Junk Converter combo that I have figured out for this deck. So I'll show you that. There's really nothing else that I can show you with this deck because it's literally just trying to turbo Black Rose Dragon going second with the cards you have in hand. Going first, you literally can't do anything outside of just the Junk Converter line. Consistently, at least. Alright, so this is the best way to use the Junk Converter combo line. It involves Junk Converter and the Red Rose Dragon. Of course, the Junk Converter plus any tuner can set up at least an interruption on its own. But yeah, we're going to showcase the Red Rose Dragon combo combo here. So we are going to activate Junk Converter, pitching itself and the Red Rose to graveyard to add the Junk Synchron. We'll normal summon the Junk Synchron and effect summoning back the Junk Converter, and then we can synchro these two into our Junk Speeder. Chainlink 1 Junk Speeder, Chainlink 2 Junk Converter, summoning back the Red Rose Dragon. With the Junk Speeder, we will summon out the Wheel Synchron and the Assault Synchron. Now we will simply synchro the Wheel and the Assault Synchron into a Black Rose Dragon. We'll then use the Graveyard effect of Wheel to reduce the Junk Speeder's level by 3, giving us a level 2 non-tuner to synchro with our level 3 tuner into the Garden Rose Maiden. Chainlink 1 Maiden, Chainlink 2 Red Rose. We're going to be able to summon out the Rox Rose Dragon and search for the trap because Red Rose was used to synchro into a plant monster. And then the Garden Rose Maiden searches for the Black Garden as well. And then on summon, Rox Rose will search for the Basil Rose Shoot. We can then activate our Black Garden, and what the Black Garden does is every time you summon a monster, mandatory effect will activate. That monster that you summon's attack will be halved, and then your opponent will get a plant token summoned to their field. So this is actually how we're going to clog up their zones. We're going to synchro the Rox Rose with the Garden Rose Maiden into the Axel Synchro. Chainlink 1 Black Garden will give our opponent a token, and Chainlink 2 Axel will summon the Assault Synchron from the graveyard, which of course on resolution will trigger the Black Garden again, giving our opponent a second token. We'll activate Basil Rose Shoot, summoning back one of our level 3 tuners, again giving our opponent another token, and we'll then synchro the Black Rose with the Rox Rose here into the Ruddy Rose, giving our opponent a 4th token, and then the Ruddy Rose plus the Assault Synchron can synchro into the Crimson Dragon. Chainlink 1 Black Garden, Chainlink 2 Crimson Dragon. We're going to search for the Synchro Rumble, and our opponent has all 5 of their zones clogged up by these plant tokens. We're then going to activate Synchro Rumble, summoning back the Red Rose Dragon, and then the Graveyard effect of Maiden, banishing herself to summon the Black Rose Dragon. Of course, the Black Garden will still be triggering every time we summon a monster, so even though our opponent isn't getting any more tokens, our monsters are still getting halved. But yeah, from here we simply just set our trap and pass turn. Our opponent is simply unable to summon monsters unless they have like weird link monsters or tribute summons or things like that, but we are still then able to clog up their zones again because we have effects to summon on our opponent's turn. For example, Crimson Dragon can target the Black Rose to tag out into the Black Rose Moonlight Dragon, which can bounce an opponent's link monster or, you know, something like that. You also want to make sure all of your guys are in defense position actually so that they can't just crash the tokens. If they're still attempting to play, we can activate the effect of Axel to attribute itself, summoning out the Stardust Dragon and synchroing the Black Rose with the Red Rose into the Ruddy Rose Dragon. This can nuke the field, but I don't think we really want to because our opponent is basically locked out of playing the game. So we would just go Chainlink 1 Red Rose once again to summon from the deck, and Chainlink 2 Assault Synchron will summon back the Axel Synchro. Resolving Red Rose will summon out the Rox Rose. Effect on summon will grab us another Basil Rose Shoot for turn 3, and it's very likely that our opponent just passes turn with a board full of tokens, unable to play the game. Now, how we're actually able to kill our opponent here would be to activate the trap, giving us a level 2 token that we could then use to synchro with the Rox Rose Dragon into the Garden Rose Flora. Garden Rose Flora can destroy a field spell to summon a level 2 non-tuner token. So we would do just that, destroying the Black Garden to gain a token here. Now we are about to clear the field with a Black Rose Dragon here. So what we're going to do is set our Basil Rose Shoot, because when it's destroyed by card effect while set, it can reborn a Rose Dragon. We synchro the Flora with the token into the Black Rose Dragon. Effect will nuke the entire field. Ruddy Rose will die, but we protect all our level 7 and 8 Dragon Synchros by banishing the Synchro Rumble. Also, our set card is destroyed, and then Basil Rose Shoot will activate, summoning back the Ruddy Rose Dragon. Our opponent has an empty field, so this will be game right here. And that is pretty much like the only combo this deck can do going first that actually is worth doing. You're not going to be able to consistently pull this off, so I would recommend just blinding second with this deck specifically, and that's really all there is to it until you get the support out of Doom of Dimensions. And finally, we get to the Blackwing deck. By far, the most competent deck in the box. It's not as consistent as the Yusei deck in the fact that there's not as many one-card starters, but there's so many more disruptive cards and they're so much easier to access in this deck. It's a lot harder to hand trap rather than just like Effect Veiler on Junk Speeder. This deck is really, really good. And honestly, you could get away with just 2 boxes for this. So yeah, of course, we'll go through the base list, talk about the key cards, show you some combos, and then mention some possible upgrades. So in the main deck, we have 3 copies of Simoon. This card is basically full combo with any other Blackwing in hand. 3 copies of Sudri, which is your main normal summon in the deck. As a 1-card combo, this can put up an interruption or 2, but it's not full combo. We have 3 copies of Vata and 3 copies of Shamal, alongside 3 copies of Black Whirlwind. You only get 2 Black Whirlwind in a box, but you really want to get the 3rd. So even if you just buy like a single Black Whirlwind to go alongside the deck, that's fine. We have 2 copies of Chinook, which is your hand trap, 2 copies of Sharnga, which is not only an extender, it's also a pop in graveyard. And the rest of the engine requirements, we have 1 Blackwing Twin Shadow, 1 Black Feather Whirlwind, 1 Harmattan the Dust, because you need a level 2 non-tuner, but this is also a very nice extender that you can search because it can modify its level to be level 4, level 6, you know, level 2. It's a really good card. Then we also have Borrow the Spear because he's really cool. I am also playing 1 copy of Assault Synchron purely because there's only 1 left. There's been 1 in every single deck. You only get 1 per box. I would play 2 because this helps you extend past your normal summon Sudri getting negated. But yeah, like I said, I've used only 3 boxes for all 3 of these decks. We only had 1 left, so there's only 1 copy in here. Rest of the deck is non-engine. We have 3 Ash and 3 Imperm. You get a playset in every box. We have 3 Mourner, 3 Droplet, 3 Forbidden Chalice, and then 1 Called by the Grave. If you're doing like an in-house box tournament, then you really want to give this deck like the weakest hand traps because the core engine is just so much better than the others. Yeah, that is the 40 card main deck. The extra deck is a lot simpler than the other 2 decks. We have 3 copies of the secret rare Chibi Black-Winged Dragon, very nice. 3 copies of the Black-Winged Assault Dragon. If you can summon 1, you can basically summon 2. 3 copies of Berea Storm, which is essentially like your main playmaker in the extra deck. 2 copies of Notong for the additional normal summon. 2 copies of Full Armor Master because it's a towers, it's really easy to summon, and it's a very nice endboard piece. We also have 1 copy of Silver Wind. This is good going second and potentially to summon off of your Twin Shadow trap card. And then we have 1 copy of the Blackwing Armed Wing. Similar to Borrow the Spear, he's just cool, man. And yo, wait, has he got a trench gun? Or is that like a harpoon? I don't know what weapon that is. Kind of looks like a trench gun though. Okay, so the game plan for the Blackwing deck is to set up as many of these interruptions as possible. And we actually have main deck interruptions in this one, which is really, really nice. Yeah, starting off with the Black-Winged Assault Dragon. This can be summoned with a Tuner Synchro monster and any non-tuner monster. So it's very easy to summon, especially with the Berea Storm. I forgot to mention, you can also special summon this by banishing a Tuner Synchro and a Black-Winged Dragon from field or grave. So typically, you'll hard make one of these and then banish the materials from graveyard to summon out another one for free. While this is on the field, at the resolution of any opponent's monster effects, they take 700 damage and this gains a counter. And then when this card has 4 counters on it, you can tribute it to blow up the entire field. Your own cards will typically be protected, so you're essentially just nuking the opponent. And if you have more than one of these, that's what, 700, 1400 per monster effect, 2100 per monster effect. If you can get all 3 out, it's a very, very strong boss monster. Next up, we have the Blackwing Full Armor Master. This is simply just unaffected by other cards' effects. It's very easy to summon just a Blackwing tuner and any non-tuners. If your opponent somehow survives all your disruptions while this is on the field, when it gets to your turn, this can just steal an opponent's monster, basically. But yeah, any kind of unaffected monster is a very, very strong piece to the board. Sometimes you'll hard make it, sometimes you'll summon it off Twin Shadow. But another option that you can summon off of Twin Shadow is the Silverwind the Ascendant. This is good going second because on summon, you can target up to 2 face-up monsters on the field with defense lower than 2800 and destroy those targets. So if you summon this on your opponent's turn with something like Twin Shadow, you can pop 2 of their monsters. So again, another nice interruptive piece. Chinook, which is of course very searchable, being a Blackwing with only 100 attack. This is pretty much just effect failure. You can send this card from hand or field to grave, target a face-up monster your opponent controls, send a Blackwing Synchro monster or Blackwing Dragon from the extra deck to the graveyard, and then until the end of this turn, that target monster loses 700 attack and its effects are negated. It's only a quick effect if you actually control a Dark Synchro monster, which, I mean, come on, you're gonna control a Dark Synchro monster. So yeah, a searchable effect failure, very nice. And then Sharnga, if a monster with 2000 or more attack is on the field, you can just special summon this card from your hand for free. So going second, it's pretty good. Going first, it can sometimes extend some of your combos through interruptions. But most of the time, you'll send this to the graveyard with Berea Storm, and while this is in the graveyard, if you control a Blackwing Synchro monster quick effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard, target a face-up card your opponent controls, and destroy it. So it's literally just a quick effect pop while it's in the graveyard and you control a Blackwing Synchro monster, and you access this through most of your combos as well. So your end board is typically going to consist of between 1 and like 5 of these different disruptions. which leads to a very strong board. So let's show you the combos and how to actually get into those interruptions. Okay, I'll start by showing you the basic 1-card Sudri combo, and then we'll get into the actual full combo you can do with Simoon, or, you know, when you have multiple different Blackwing cards in hand, that essentially gets you to full combo as well. But here with the Sudri, we are going to normal summon it and activate its effect to search for a Vata. We'll then special summon the Vata. We'll activate Vata's effect on field, sending itself to graveyard alongside non-tuners from the deck up to a total level of 8. Here, we are just going to send Simoon to the graveyard because we don't have Zephyros, we don't have any other options that we're able to extend with, and Simoon is like our worst top deck when we already have monsters on the field. But that is going to summon out the Black-Winged Dragon, and from here we'll activate the effect of Sudri tributing the Black-Winged Dragon to give ourselves a level 2 tuner token, which we can then synchro with the Sudri to summon out our Berea Storm. Berea Storm effect will send the Sharnga here, and we essentially have a choice. We could pass turn like that with the Sharnga effect being live as a quick effect pop in the graveyard, or we can banish the Black-Winged Dragon from grave and the Berea Storm from field to summon out our Black-Winged Assault Dragon. This will turn off the pop effect on Sharnga because we don't control a Blackwing synchro, but you could argue the Black-Winged Assault Dragon is just a much better interruption. It really depends. If our opponent draws an imperm for turn, then the Black-Winged Assault Dragon kind of gets destroyed there, and the Sharnga like would have dodged that. So it's a bit of a gamble either way, and that only really happens when you only have access to the Sudri. So the deck actually has some decision trees to it, which I guess is kind of cool. Alright, and here is the full combo requiring a Simoon plus any Blackwing monster in hand. Here we have our boy Borrow the Spirit. We are going to start by activating the Simoon, banishing any other Blackwing monster from hand to place a copy of Black Whirlwind face up from the deck and normal summon this card without tributing. This doesn't count as your one normal summon for turn, so it's basically free. On the normal summon of Simoon, Black Whirlwind will trigger to grab our Sudri from deck to hand. We can then normal summon the Sudri and go chainlink 1 Sudri, chainlink 2 Black Whirlwind to search more cards. Whirlwind will search for Vata and Sudri will search for the Shamal. Will then activate the Shamal effect, sending itself to graveyard to place the Black Feather Whirlwind. We'll then special summon the Vata because we control a Blackwing monster and activate the effect of Vata on field, sending a level 4 non-tuner, another copy of Sudri specifically, and a level 2 non-tuner alongside the Vata from field. It's got to add up to 8 to synchro summon out the Black-Winged Dragon. And here we'll go effect of Shamal, banishing itself from graveyard to add a Blackwing back from grave to hand because we summoned out a Blackwing Synchro or Black-Winged Dragon. That will target the Sudri, and then the Black Feather Whirlwind will also trigger here. Because we special summoned a Dark Synchro from extra deck, we can special summon back a Blackwing from the graveyard. So we're going to summon back the Vata, and of course add the Sudri to hand. We'll then Synchro summon our Sudri with our Vata into a copy of Notong, which essentially gives us an additional normal summon, allowing us to normal summon Sudri once again. Chainlink 1 Sudri, chainlink 2 Whirlwind. Whirlwind will search for the Chinook, and Sudri will search for the Twin Shadow. We'll use the second effect of Sudri, tributing the Simoon, to summon a level 2 tuner token. We'll then synchro the token with the Sudri to summon out our Berea Storm, and Berea Storm effect on summon will send a Sharnga to the graveyard and copy its level. So this now becomes a level 2 tuner synchro. Our level 2 Berea Storm and our Black-Winged Dragon into our first copy of the Black-Winged Assault Dragon, and then we can simply banish the Black-Winged Dragon and the tuner synchro monster from graveyard to special summon out another copy of the Black-Winged Assault Dragon. This gives us our 2 boss monsters, our searchable hand trap in hand here with the Chinook, our Sharnga Pop in the graveyard, and then we also have the Twin Shadow as well to summon out our Full Armor Master or our Silver Wind, depending on what we actually want to summon. And this, of course, will once again trigger the Whirlwind as well. So lots that you can do with the deck, a whole bunch of interruptions, all off of just Simoon plus any Blackwing monster. It's crazy.